Hi, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Garage. We're having our monthly tech meet, and today we're going to be talking about the Silver Shadow series, the differences between the Silver Cloud and Silver Shadow, and a lot of the features, hydraulics, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's the lights, and also that's to get all the pistons and everything up to temperature before you slog it. Because pistons, when they're cold, are smaller than when they're warm. And if you take that old Chevy truck of mine out there, when you start it and it's cold, it rattles like hell. But once it's warm, you don't hear a thing. And the Shadows and the Silver Cloud V8s, all of them are very sensitive to heat. That's a big nightmare sometimes when they get hot, either from loss of coolant or plugged up block, from never changing your coolant. You're supposed to do that every couple of years. The pistons will get so hot that they will start to seize as they're going up and down. So as you got an aluminum piston, cast iron sleeve, and they'll get hot, and it'll be fine, and you won't even know it sometimes. And then the car will cool down. You start it up, you hear this knock, 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 knock. So what happens is it gets hot because it's stuck after you remember the engine gets warmer when you turn it off for a while because it's not circulating coolant anymore. The piston will kind of seize to that, and then it'll collapse and it'll crack. And that's a real common problem on these. It sounds almost like a lifter noise. Duck, 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 duck. You think it's going to go away. The piston, when in the early failure stage, you'll start the car up, and it'll almost sound like a lifter because it's the same frequency. Okay, so it's every 2 revolutions. The piston's firing. That's when it makes the knock. Same with the brake pump. It's the same frequency because the camshaft turns fully every 2 revolutions of the engine. So there's a lot of misdiagnosis on noises in the engine. But a piston, when it's in its early failure stage, when you start it up when it's cold, it'll make a noise, and you can tell if it's a piston by putting it into gear when it's cold and holding the brake and giving it gas. The pitch will change, okay? Because you're loading that piston even more. A lifter will not change the noise.
Is a stethoscope useful?
Don't ever put a stethoscope on your engine. It'll freak you out. Especially the oil pan. Especially the oil pan. There's a lot of thrashing noises going on. You think your engine's going to blow up. I had one guy actually I did an engine job on a car. It was a Silver Cloud 3. We did pistons on it because somebody towed it from St. Louis, Missouri. Because the local guy couldn't get to it. He found out about me and sent it all the way out here. And somebody had done the engine, and it just smoked like crazy, and he was unhappy, and it was noisy. And we took it apart, and somebody had put some Chevy racing pistons in it that were modified, a short skirt, and they didn't fit correctly. Rolls-Royce pistons are very, very high quality forged pistons that have almost zero clearance when you put them in an engine. It's pretty crazy. When they are, I think, 3,000ths, if there's 3,000ths clearance, you got to get rid of it because it's going to rattle. Because the high quality pistons do not expand that much. The cheap racing pistons, billet pistons and all that, they will rattle like crazy. So when they make these custom pistons to Rolls-Royce specs, they're either too tight, and my dad did that one year, I remember that. He did that to save money because the Rolls-Royce pistons are about $700 each, right? And there's 8. I remember that Cloud because it would run great until it got warm, and then it almost seized, right? So you turn it off and it wouldn't crank at all until it got cold again. And then the other problem is when they make these custom pistons to their specifications with a lot more clearance because they're going to have a lot more expansion. When they're cold, they make a lot of noise when it rolls. So his smoking problem was valve seals. They did them wrong. And then we put the right pistons in, so he's real happy with the car. But he had a friend who had a Silver Cloud also. He was an oil guy. He was fun to talk to on the phone. He was a good old boy. But he says, I get under my car and I listen to that engine, it sounds like it's gonna blow up. I said, what's it sound like from outside the car? Oh, it's great, runs fine. I said, don't touch it. Because truly, when you listen to, there's a lot going on inside a crankcase, a lot of noise.
When you replace the pistons, you also replace the liners?
Yes, what happens is the piston will start to seize, so it's transferring metal, the aluminum to the cast iron sleeve, and it usually scores the heck out of them. The nice thing is on these is you don't have to bore the block, you replace the sleeve and the piston, and it's usually fine.
Don't they have three sizes, over, 0, and under?
They have actually more than that. They have different grades of
But
pistons.
they match the pistons in the liner?
Right, but what they stock is what you get to buy.
Was there any differences between the Bentley T1s and T2s and the Shadows?
Okay, that's a great question. The Bentley T, which is what they called them when they came out, not the Bentley T. Huh?
What was the question, please? I couldn't hear it.
It was the Bentley T1s and T2s?
Yeah.
Yes. So the Bentley T is basically a Rolls-Royce, okay, with Bentley valve covers, Bentley gauges, Bentley grill. A little different hood to match that grill. The Bentley T2 is like this Shadow 2. Same car. In fact, most of the Bentley T2s, you open the hood and it says Rolls-Royce on the valve covers. They were kind of a funny model. I think even some of the gauges said Rolls-Royce on them. So, same as the Shadow series. So the T1, they call them T1s now after they came out with the T2. Just like the Silver Clouds, when they came out, they were called a Silver Cloud. And then when the 2 came out, everybody called the first version the Silver Cloud 1.
Silver Cloud chassis. Are the 2 and 3 the same other than the holes in the chassis for the exhaust pipes?
I think so. You're talking about the frame?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the same, yeah.
And is the one the same or different?
No, the 1 is different. The front suspension is completely different on the 1. It's got smaller everything, really, because they didn't have that V8. Even though I think that 6-cylinder is heavier than the V8.
Really?
All in, yeah. 6-cylinder. It's got the big cast iron block. The V8s are all aluminum, cast iron sleeves, obviously steel rods and camshaft and crankshaft.
We have a question down here.
What's that?
Bob was wondering if this is a gas tank
No.
and what these are coming out of whatever.
Those are forehead impalers.
That's what we thought.
What they did on the Shadow 2s is they had to move the gas tank. Actually, they did that in '76, I think. If you notice on this car, the gas door is up on the C-post. So federal safety standards, I think because of the Pintos, the exploding gas tanks when they got rear-ended, they had to move the gas tank up out of this crush zone. So this is just a storage unit under the trunk.
And where physically is a gas tank on this thing?
It's up between the back seat and that panel at the front of the trunk.
Oh, so it's just missing out this one here.
No, it's up inside the trunk.
Oh, it's up there.
Yeah.
Okay, got
The
it.
Shadow 1s, they were bolted under here. They had big 26-gallon
Well,
tanks.
this one looks like it goes around. It's underneath.
That,
this.
yeah, that's a
Is that
Silver
right?
Cloud,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
It's
good.
up between the axle and the frame. Right up in here.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so that's a storage unit, and I bet you there's some sort of audio thing bolted in there, or screwed in there with some nice Home Depot self-tapping screws.
What spark plugs do you put into a Shadow 1
I use the NGK version.
NGK?
Yeah, it depends on the year model. Yours is,
72.
yeah, I would use, I think it's a GR5. I like those. They don't foul as much, in my opinion, and I always set the gap wider. So it usually asks for, I think, 30 on those, or 28. I definitely go to 35. The wider gap heats it up,
Shadow
burns
2
better.
the same?
Shadow 2 went to electronic ignition. Electronic ignition, I push it out to 40,000. Same plug's fine, or you can use some fancy.
What model number again?
I think it's a GR5. I think that's it.
And you'll go ahead and use iridiums or?
You can use those. The spark plugs on those older cars, you're going to have to change more often because they're not as efficient. combustion wise. The fuel management is not as efficient. They're not like the modern cars where the spark plugs are good for 100,000 miles, right? These old cars, you had to change them every
Is
12,000.
there a benefit to iridium or platinum in the clouds?
I think the benefit is right up here.
Yeah.
Really, I don't. Because they're
Another old.
only going to last so long anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to.
Test on all the cylinders when
On non-OBD2 cars, I do. OBD on non-OBD2 cars, we definitely do. The thing about the OBD2, which came out in '96, is it already does diagnostics. So an OBD2 car can tell you if you have a misfire on a particular cylinder. Okay, so that's. And then the modern cars, to get to the spark plugs is really hard, and plus you have to disable so many things to keep it from trying to start. And then when you disable things and you try to run the car, it flags all kinds of codes, right? So a car that's fine when it comes in, if you've got to smog it and you generate all these codes in these cars, you got to clear them. And when you clear them, you got to go on drive cycles to reset all the self-monitoring. So it's never good to do that kind of stuff.
so a shadow or
Shadow, we would do it. Yeah, cloud, we do it. Yeah, we pull it and do the compression.
cloud, you gotta pull the.
Front fenders, fender panels, yes.
Remember, we did that on the back of your.
Yeah. And that's it's just part of the deal. They are more expensive to do. The clouds are more expensive on a PPI because you got to pull all the wheels and brake drums. These cars, you can look in, you can see where the brake pads are, you can see the thickness, you can mic the rotors. Silver clouds and all the previous cars like these, it's a lot of work to get the brakes apart. So it always costs more. And you want to look at it. Definitely want to look at it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. To enjoy? Let's go.